One of the ongoing themes about the Dragon Ball universe is the fact that Goku and Vegeta have not yet surpassed Beerus. So much so that this theme has effectively become a meme at this point, and it all really started in Battle of Gods, where there were originally numbers that were used to scale the difference in power between Goku, Beerus, and Whis. But of course, the Dragon Ball Super anime went in a completely different direction, and this has gone into a particular position where Goku has unlocked several different transformations after he has fought Beerus and is still, at least we theorize, is not yet stronger than him. But when you actually think about it, this isn't really the point that we're making in today's video. We're making a point that Goku and Vegeta being able to even approximate the power of Beerus is actually rather embarrassing on Beerus' part in the Dragon Ball universe particularly, and this even expands into the other gods of the Dragon Ball universe. And this is all for one very, very simple reason, and this is time. When you factor in that Beerus has been, at least you could say, has existed for such a high amount of time that we don't even know the exact number to, you would think that even if you say, well, Beerus has slept a lot of the time that has passed, well, that would even go even farther into proving how long Beerus has actually existed, because if Beerus sleeps for so long, then you have to ask yourself, well, if just sleeping takes that long, then you have to start to wonder how long he actually has existed. And that number is so high that we can't even use the word years to describe it. We would need eons or even a higher level of metric to even quantify Beerus' existence in the Dragon Ball universe. Now, when you factor in all of that time, and then you factor in that Saiyans, who basically have around the same lifespan as humans, and obviously for those who don't know this specifically, Saiyans and humans do live for the same amount of time. The only difference is that Saiyans maintain their physical prime longer than humans do. But in terms of actual existence years, Saiyans do live around the same amount of times as humans. And when you factor that in, it just goes to show that in basically a human lifespan, that two mortal beings could even approximate the strength of Beerus is beyond human comprehension. And when you actually sit and think about the actual mathematics between the amazing feats that what Goku and Vegeta have done in their short mortal lives, it literally completely defies the fact that Beerus should even be able to fight against these characters in the first place. So even if you say Goku and Vegeta are 10% the strength of Beerus, or if you say they're 1% the strength of Beerus, even if you say that they are 1% his strength, that is still beyond human comprehension, or, well, we can't even say human comprehension, beyond divine comprehension, considering the fact that the time is so much on not only Beerus' side, but on the side of the gods, that basically, just based off of the fact of time alone, Beerus should be infinitely ahead of our characters. But then when we go on to another point here, guys, we have to talk about the actual training. Now, when you consider the fact that it's obviously been shown and implied that Beerus has trained with Whis, you also have to factor this in too. If you consider the fact that angels are effectively the most effective beings to train within the Dragon Ball universe, considering the fact that, Whis has definitely helped Goku and Vegeta improve so much, and then when we also factor in what an angel in training did, like Mira specifically, they're obviously very effective in helping you improve yourself to the utmost extremes. So when you factor in that all gods specifically have infinite access to angels that basically allow them to train to the utmost ability, what Goku and Vegeta is doing specifically is still beyond divine comprehension, considering the fact that all gods basically have a training advantage simply because of what they do for a living. And as a result of that, the fact that Goku and Vegeta can gain so much out of their training in such a small amount of time, relative to what other gods can do, is still also impressive. But there's also a counter theory to this too, where many can say, well, if you're a god of destruction, what do you really have to fight against? And I can definitely understand that, because if you're so powerful and literally the only beings in the universe that can compete with you are other gods and angels themselves, well, you don't really have a lot of fighting experience to gain, whereas Goku and Vegeta have always fought against powerful, mortal, and divine beings that have always pushed them to the next level. And I can definitely understand that. But at the same time, when you combine that with the amount of time advantage that the gods have specifically, it's still such a massive advantage. And when you consider the fact that mortal threats are still significantly smaller compared to what divine threats can be, the gods would definitely still have an advantage when it comes to training and that, so it would immediately counter the counter theory too. But this ultimately brings us to another theory that the Dragon Ball community has thought about for years. That eventually Goku and Vegeta are basically going to become a god of destruction and an angel, and it does seem like the show has hinted at this direction based off of the fact that Goku trains more like an angel, and Vegeta trains more like a god of destruction, specifically with his Ultra Ego transformation and Goku trying to learn Ultra Instinct from Whis, and obviously Beerus too. But when we factor that in, it doesn't quite make sense, because even if Goku trained like an angel, there are hints that he wouldn't want to be one. Well, first of all, Goku specifically hinted in the Granola arc, basically, that he didn't want to use his perfected Ultra Instinct form because it was very, very hard for him to remain calm in that particular moment, which is why he reverted back to his Ultra Instinct Omen state. But then when we think about this from an alternate perspective, it doesn't really seem in Goku's character to just be a neutral being in the universe to just train others. I mean, definitely, we can see the transition of Goku wanting to train Oob at the end of Dragon Ball Z, so maybe you can say he achieved so much in the spat of Dragon Ball Super that he basically wanted to be the teacher at that point. But it just doesn't seem like it's in Goku's character to just basically do what a god of destruction wants, and in this case specifically, you could say somebody like Vegeta. Just imagine Goku and Vegeta as a god of destruction and an angel duo, where, you know, Goku basically has to watch out for Vegeta. I definitely can't see Goku doing that. It's not in his character to basically be Vegeta's servant, and I think he would get very bored doing that at a particular point, because if you're so powerful and you have no other threats to really train and fight against, that's just not what Goku wants. Goku always wants to fight, he always wants to train, he always wants to fight against bad guys, and that directly contradicts what angels are supposed to do in Dragon Ball, because angels are supposed to remain their neutrality. And if angels are supposed to keep their neutrality in Dragon Ball, that would completely defy Goku, who wants to obviously make his own decisions. So that theory never really stayed with me, even though I will say for Vegeta, though, I could see him being more of a god of destruction than I could see Goku actually being an angel, simply just based off of the nature of his character alone. But when we go to other characters, we've definitely seen two mortal beings that we've seen in training for these particular positions. The first would be the character of Toppo, and obviously the other would be the character of Beerus. Now, these are two very interesting examples, because with the character of Toppo, we don't really know exactly how the God of Destruction process works, as we obviously would see that Toppo would replace Belmod, and then for Beerus, it would be very difficult to understand that if he had become an angel, who would he be assigned to specifically, because all of the universes have their own angels. So exactly where do angels that don't have assignments go necessarily? I mean, the Dragon Ball series would definitely have to expand more on that, because if that's the particular case, well then Toppo and Beerus wouldn't be the only ones in training, and I do think that all of these conversations about Toppo and Beerus specifically will definitely create a lot of interesting storylines when Dragon Ball Super returns in the future. And the specific reason why we say this is because there's a lot of unexplored questions that could really be answered, because we need to kind of learn more about how the god hierarchy works, because to be specific, a lot of it just kind of seems like offhanded writing where you can kind of just make it up on the fly how the hierarchy actually works. Which is one of the reasons why some of you in a more recent video even brought up an interesting conversation about Zeno's guards. And I made a joke basically saying, why would Zeno need guards in the Dragon Ball universe when he's so ridiculously powerful that he could literally erase everything from existence? But you guys brought up an interesting point in saying that the guards that Zeno has aren't really to protect Zeno, but they're really to protect others from Zeno, and basically trying to keep balance in the universe, because if Zeno gets agitated, not only would that mean that the person that they're fighting is going to get erased, but if Zeno just says, hey, I'm going to erase the entire universe, well then that means that the guards are basically going to get erased too. So, in a way, you can say that Zeno's guards effectively protect the Dragon Ball universe from Zeno himself, which I felt was a very interesting way to kind of twist their usage in the Dragon Ball series. And I think for all of these questions and theories, I really think it makes the Dragon Ball universe a lot more interesting to talk about, especially when we talk more about these unexplored hierarchies when it comes to Dragon Ball Super.